Hey guys, Yankee Prepper. Sipping on a hot cup of Columbia this morning. I thought it was time for another audio broadcast, blasting out of Minnesota like an Alberta Clipper. What do we got people worrying about this morning out there? We got all kinds of stuff. Jade Helm still going on. Anybody got martial law yet? This is it, man. Jade Helm came over, dude. What else? Shmeta? What is that? I always thought the Shmita I thought was Jewish soup with the matzo balls in it. I love that soup. Isn't that what that is? I don't know. Shmita, everybody's worried about Shmita. It's going to be a rapture by the end of the month. I'm not even packed. It's like, what the heck? Asteroids. We got an asteroid coming. We've had an asteroid coming for like 5 years. You guys realize that? You can go back and look up like videos of Nibiru coming. 5 years ago it was coming. Dude, this is the slowest asteroid in the universe. It's like ridiculous. We got blood moons. I actually saw a blood moon the other night. It was during the state fair, and just when the moon was rising, it was really red. I have to admit, that was pretty creepy. They were blaming it on the wildfires or something out west. I don't know what it was, but nothing happened. I probably ate too much cotton candy and corn dogs, but nothing came out of it. All right, here we go. All right, welcome to Yankee Prepper's underground basement bunker recording studio, where it's his basement, not his mom's. Today, I'm going to talk about learning and why stupid people have a hard time learning. Do you know why there are so many talking head channels on YouTube? You know, the kind that never really show you how to do anything. They just talk all the time on what they think. Whether it's the doomsday preppers or it's the YouTube prophets or what I like to call the village idiots. There's tons of these channels. It's saturated. YouTube's saturated with them. It's simple because it takes zero effort and almost zero investment. And there is almost no accountability for anything they're saying. That's why. I mean, you don't have to have any special education, any background, any degrees. You don't even have to have experience in the subject matter that you're talking about. There are people out there who are giving advice about the stock market and talking about the stock market that have never made an investment in their life. You've got people talking about real estate that have never made a mortgage payment or owned a house. You've got people talking about all kinds of things that they know nothing about or have no experience with. Some channels just make it up as they go. Many plagiarize their material. They fish it off the internet, translate it into a video of their own. They give no credit to the sources that they've plucked it from. They have no experience in what they're talking about. They just heard it on the internet. And they're parroting it back, even though they haven't had a single original thought in the whole process. I've witnessed this even with equipment, where somebody's just literally unboxed something, and they're talking about it as if they're experienced with it and have used it in the field for years. I think the younger generation especially, I've witnessed it firsthand. Somebody will research, quote unquote, something on the internet where they're basically taking other people's inexperienced advice. They buy a piece of equipment, and literally, I've witnessed it the very next day. They're talking about it as if they've used it for years and have tons of field experience with it. It's something to behold, watching it happen. Because I've never seen this before. I've never seen this type of behavior before. I think this is all stemming from the internet. It's a joke to me, because I can assure you, I don't care how much equipment you have, it doesn't come with the experience that you need. You know, we've all ran into those little boys who'll be like in 4th or 5th grade that think they know everything because they've seen it on the internet, or they have a flight simulator, therefore they can fly. Well, those little boys are not growing out of that. This new generation is full of them, and they're growing into adults with the same attitude. They've seen it on the internet, therefore they know how to do it. I try my best through my channel to show people that there are alternatives to the way people are living today, and I try to give people tips on how to do things easier. But until you get your hands in it, until you get out there, you know, it's almost like, I'm showing you a place on the map, but you got to get there. You got to go earn that place. You got to get your hands on it in order to say that you know how to do it. You can't watch it on the internet and say that you know how to do it. The other side of the coin are people that have reached their capacity for learning. And I think this is the one that really wears me down. I run into it on my channel a lot, and I run into it in the real world as well. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and I see it more, or if it's just happening more. But there are guys out there that will argue the facts with you. They call it disagreeing. You can't really argue or disagree with facts, but that's what they'll call it. You can disagree with, whether whole milk tastes better than skim milk. You can disagree with whether a well-done steak tastes as good as a rare steak, but you can't disagree with facts. You can't disagree with the truth. Some guys will not accept the facts unless you take them by the back of their head and just smash their face in it. I ran into this as a good example in my last video. You would think that the cheater meals would have been a pretty simple deal where you're not going to get any major arguments with people, but I had a guy write in, and it turned into a major argument over facts. And he said, well, I have health issues, so I don't want the salt in those things. It's too unhealthy. And, and I said, well, relatively speaking, that's why I put these up. Whether I'm making my own, I can control the salt. But in this situation, in the last cheater meals, they're a lot lower in salt, let's say, than an MRE. An MRE in one serving in a military meal is usually about 90% of the allotted salt intake for one person. And if you go to Mountain House, it's about the same. The scrambled eggs meal is about 80-some% of all the salt that one person's allowed in one day. But, when they make those allowances, they're talking about somebody sitting in front of the internet all day not doing dick, or sitting in a cubicle. They're not talking about trail and camp activities where a guy's going on a 4-day hunt where he's really going to need that salt. And that's what I tried to explain to him, that this is important. Salt intake, or more salt intake, when you're out camping or in the trail, especially in the boundary waters, you need salt. He wrote back on this disagreeing, and I guess, you could disagree on that, but I've been out there enough, I've had enough field experience that I know that you need the extra salt out there, and the fact that the cheater meals are lower in salt. And I told him, especially in cold weather, where your body is, you're perspiring, you're losing a lot more liquids during cold weather or cooler weather. Now, he wrote back with that and said his comment to that was, well, I've never had to wipe sweat off my face winter camping, so I'd like you to show me where that's said. And that kind of set me off. Now, if you can imagine, that may seem like a small thing to you, but, I run a pretty large channel. If I have to take every single person by the hand and show them where the facts are, then, I'm never going to get anything done. So that did set me off. But the fact that he's coming to my channel looking for information and wants to argue what I feel like are basic facts. Boy Scouts know that colder weather, you perspire more. You lose more through your breath. You're losing more through your clothing, but you don't realize it because it's evaporating off a lot quicker. Some people don't know that, and that's okay. But that's why I'm sharing this information with you. I certainly don't want to argue with it. So I just sent him a quick clip back and said, I'm not going to walk you through every single basic fact and then give you a link telling you where it is. If you're coming here, you're either going to take my advice or you're not. I'm never going to try to steer you wrong, but I'm not going to walk your hand through every single, what I consider especially to be basic, facts on this. And I'm certainly not going to get into an argument over facts. This brings to mind even another more serious subject matter where I got into an argument with a guy over the facts. And this guy is exactly what I'm talking about. He's reached his capacity for learning. Unless you take his face and smash it into the facts, he's just going to refuse to learn. And even if you smash his face into the facts, he may not take the advice anyway. And we were talking about capsizing your canoe in the Boundary Waters. The Boundary Waters is a large wilderness area on the northern part of Minnesota. And the water up there is very unique because it's deep glacier lakes and it really doesn't get warm enough long enough to warm up the water. Now, during a nice day in July, if it's 80 or 90 degrees out and you capsize your boat on a nice day just for fun and you're swimming around, you're probably not going to get in trouble. But if you're in the fall and it's kind of, bad weather, don't try to save your boat. Don't stay with your canoe. Get to shore, get out of the water as soon as possible, especially if you have people around to assist. They'll get the boat, they'll come out there with their canoes and bring the boat in. But if you're alone, and this has happened before, don't try to stay with your canoe because within 30 minutes, depending on who you are, to an hour, you can get into real trouble out there with hypothermia. There was actually a couple 2 years ago that was on the same lake that I was in September, and a bad storm came up. I actually was in the water the same time they were. I never seen them, but they capsized about the same time frame. And they tried to stay with their boat, and they found them the next day floating, with their life vests on, and they were dead. Hypothermia had set in. They lost control over their extremities, and they couldn't get out of there. They eventually just died in the water looking at each other. And I was trying to explain this to this guy because, according to him, the Coast Guard, which uses a very broad brush with boating accidents, tells you to stay with your watercraft. And that's using a very wide brush. And what they mean is if you capsize your boat, not a canoe, if you capsize your boat, stay with it so you can be seen. But in the Boundary Waters, it takes a different action. If you've got to decide fairly quickly if it's a bad day, cool weather, you're in cold water, don't try to fight the waves and the wind to get that boat into shore. Try to get to shore immediately so hypothermia doesn't set in, and then you can always light a signal fire. If you've got people to help you get to shore, of course, right away, get out of the water before hypothermia sets in, and then people and other canoes can get your boat to shore. But there was no way he was going to be taught anything else. And when it comes to things like that, where you're talking people's lives, it's really hard for me to back down or be around people like that. Let alone on the internet, but especially in the real world. I just don't want the liability of even being around somebody like that. If you've reached the capacity to learn, please just move on. And that doesn't mean I can't be wrong. I'm human too. I'm not beyond correction. But when I've got it up here on my channel, I'm really going out of my way to make sure it's correct. And if you find anything that I'm telling you for a fact that is incorrect, then I would welcome that correction. But disagreeing about facts it isn't going to work with me. I don't even want to waste my time with it. If I'm telling you something and your answer to that is, let's say, well, I've never wiped sweat off my face in the wintertime like the summertime, that's not disagreeing. That's not making you right. That's making you look inexperienced. You need to, go check at least what I'm saying so I don't have to hold your hand all the way there and then smash your face in it. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I've ranted and rambled on about a few things I wanted to get off my chest. I like this new format. I think I'm going to try to do this at least once a week. It's like a way of me meeting with you, and it helps me release some of these frustrations so you can kind of see things from my point of view too. 99% of the feedback and comments are very positive, and I appreciate that. It's hard for me, I guess, to take the pats on the back. I was brought up just to kind of try to do the best job you can, do a good job, and I never expect an attaboy for it, but it is very uplifting for me. It's really cool to meet people out there with the same heart and Christian faith, and that really helps lift me up and motivates me to come back here. So I just wanted to say I do appreciate that. I think that's what the internet should be about. That's what social media should be about, is finding people out there that think alike and want to be around each other. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. I got a big week coming up next week. I'm going to do, I think the first vid I'm going to do on that deer hunting gig that I got coming up at that state park is going to be how to navigate, going into brand new public land that I've never been on before, a map and compass, GPSs, everything that I'm taking in there to kind of scout out an area. So I will be talking with you soon. Take it easy.